All right, buckle up, everybody. We're going deep today. Deep into the crazy world of airport security and the things people try to sneak past those scanners. It's not just about that extra bottle of shampoo anymore.
No, not at all. We're talking about some seriously creative and sometimes downright dangerous attempts.
We've got a fascinating mix of sources to dig into today, right?
Absolutely. We've got a list of the most unexpected things ever detected in luggage, plus a whole collection of wild smuggling attempts from all over the world.
Okay, so let's get this straight. We all know the basics. No liquids, no sharp objects, nothing that looks like a weapon, right?
Yeah, the usual suspects. But these stories go way beyond a forgotten pocket knife.
I mean, have you ever seen a sign that says no human remains?
You probably haven't, but they exist. And they exist for a reason. People have actually tried to transport dead bodies on airplanes. It's more common than you'd think, believe me. Often they're trying to avoid the whole complicated process of repatriation. Sending a body back to its home country, like back in 2010 at Liverpool John Lennon Airport.
What happened?
2 women tried to push a deceased relative through security in a wheelchair, hoping no one would notice.
Wow, that's incredibly unsettling. I mean, I understand grief is powerful, but was there something else going on, like avoiding regulations, or maybe it was a financial thing?
Hard to say for sure what their motives were, but it definitely shows you the lengths people will go to. And it also puts a spotlight on just how many unexpected situations airport security has to be ready for.
Right, they've got to be on their toes for anything.
Absolutely. Now, transporting a dead relative, that's shocking for sure. But sometimes these situations, they aren't about malicious intent at all. Sometimes it's just plain ignorance of the rule.
Like what? What kind of example?
Think about the guy who tried to bring 240 fish in his suitcases through LAX.
240 fish. Wow, someone took their new hobby a bit too far. But you're right, it brings up a good point. Even if something's not dangerous in itself, it can still be a security issue if it breaks airline rules.
Yeah.
And speaking of breaking the rules, what about live animals? I remember that story about the woman caught in Bangkok with a sedated tiger cub in her luggage.
Oh yeah, that one was a real head scratcher. Especially concerning because we're talking about an endangered species here.
Didn't she try to hide it with a stuffed animal, like a tiger toy or something?
She did. It was a stuffed tiger, trying to pull a fast one on security. This case, though, it's just a tiny glimpse into a much bigger problem. The illegal wildlife trade. It's a massive global black market that puts countless species and ecosystems at risk.
That's scary.
It really is.
You hear about ivory and rhino horn, but it's easy to forget about the trade in live animals. And in some cases, people are trying to bring in a whole zoo.
A whole zoo. It's unbelievable. Like that case in South Africa, remember?
Remind me.
Back in 2009, a man was caught trying to smuggle over 70 live animals. Snakes, crocodiles, turtles, you name it. He had it all.
That's insane. Speaking of unexpected dangers, what about that passenger who tried to bring a live cannonball in his luggage? At Fort Lauderdale Airport, no less.
Oh yeah, that's a prime example of how something seemingly harmless can be a huge threat.
I bet he thought it was just a cool souvenir from a diving trip.
Maybe, but old explosives like that can be super unstable.
Yeah.
And they can detonate without warning.
Thankfully, airport security recognized the danger and stopped it before anything happened.
They did. Good thing.
So it's not just about things that are obviously dangerous, it's also about things that could cause panic. And then there's that case in Atlanta. The man with 30 dead venomous snakes.
Oh yeah, that one. Transporting dead snakes might not be illegal in itself, but it was the chemicals they used to preserve them that caused concern. That was a real safety risk to everyone at the airport.
So even when something's already dead, there's still safety protocols to consider. It makes you think, huh?
It does. And sometimes it's not even the actual danger of an item, but the perceived threat it poses. Remember that woman who tried to bring Negan's bat from The Walking Dead through security?
Wait, seriously?
It was at Atlanta's airport. The bat itself was a replica, and it was covered in fake blood. But security confiscated it anyway. It just goes to show you, they have to make judgment calls based on the context and the potential for disruption. Even if the bat wasn't dangerous, just the way it looked could cause panic.
Right. They've got a tough job. Ensuring safety while also respecting individual rights and understanding people's intentions. Not always an easy task.
Not at all. It's a balancing act for sure.
I'm curious, the articles mention how X-ray technology can now detect heartbeats. That's incredible. What other cutting-edge technologies are being used?
There are a variety of advanced imaging techniques being implemented, like backscatter X-ray scanners, which can detect objects concealed beneath clothing.
Wow.
They also use computed tomography, CT scanners, which provide 3D images of luggage.
Okay.
They're using trace detection technology, which can identify particles of explosives or narcotics. There are also advanced algorithms and machine learning being used to analyze passenger data and flag potential risks.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
No.
Right. It's also about how it's used and interpreted.
Exactly. It's a combination of technology, human expertise, and intelligence gathering.
Speaking of human expertise, the articles also mention how security personnel are trained to spot suspicious behavior.
Right.
Even subtle cues can be a red flag.
They are. They're trained to observe patterns, notice inconsistencies, and identify individuals who might be trying to conceal something. It's called behavioral analysis, and it plays a crucial role in airport security.
That's fascinating. It sounds like these technologies are making it much more difficult to get away with smuggling.
You're right, but smugglers are getting more creative too.
Oh, no.
They're using sophisticated concealment methods, trying to stay one step ahead of security. One article highlighted a case where someone tried to smuggle cocaine in cookies.
What?
Like, who would suspect grandma's homemade cookies?
Cocaine-stuffed cookies. That's a new one for me.
It speaks to the ingenuity of smugglers. Their willingness to push boundaries.
Right.
And it's not just cocaine.
Oh.
The articles mention attempts to smuggle drugs hidden in everything from goat meat to custard mix.
It's mind-blowing, like the sheer volume of items they find. One article mentioned like hundreds of pounds of cow brains being smuggled into Egypt.
That's a great example of how economic factors drive smuggling. Cow brains are considered a delicacy in Egypt, but they're much cheaper in Sudan.
Another case that really stuck with me was that passenger trying to get like 94 iPhones into China.
Oh, yeah, a clear example of those economic factors at play.
Right, that profit motive. But 94 iPhones strapped to their body, that doesn't seem like the stealthiest approach.
Well, I guess when the potential payout is big enough, people take risks. Speaking of consequences, what happens when smugglers are caught?
It depends on the severity of the offense. For minor infractions, the items might be confiscated.
Right.
But for serious offenses like drug or wildlife smuggling, the consequences can be severe: fines, imprisonment, even international sanctions.
That's serious stuff.
It is. It makes you think twice about, like, even trying to sneak something past security.
Absolutely. The risks far outweigh any potential rewards.
Oh, sure.
Now, we talked about human remains earlier, those two women with the wheelchair, but then there was that other case, the two women at Fort Lauderdale Airport with a human skull hidden in their souvenir clay pots.
What? Another skull?
It seems strange, right? But this case shows how cultural practices can sometimes clash with airport regulations.
So what happened?
They had bought the pots in Cuba, believing they would ward off evil spirits.
Interesting.
They just didn't know those pots contained more than just clay.
Wow. Talk about a souvenir with a surprise.
Right. It's a good reminder to be aware of customs regulations when you're traveling, especially internationally. What might be normal in one country could be completely prohibited in another.
Always do your research.
Yeah, definitely. And then, on a completely different note, there's the case of that Egyptian couple. They tried to sneak their baby through UAE customs in a handbag.
Wait, a baby?
A baby. It's alarming because of the danger to the infant. They didn't have a visa for the child and decided to take a shortcut.
That's incredibly risky. Airport security isn't just about stopping smuggling. It's also about protecting vulnerable people.
Exactly. And speaking of creative smuggling, what about the man who tried to bring 6 live pigeons in his luggage? From Germany to Israel.
Those weren't just any pigeons, though.
Nope, not just any pigeons. They were a rare Uzbek species, worth a lot of money.
So we're talking about a range of motives here. Financial gain, desperation, and maybe even a little bit of, I can outsmart the system.
It's a mix of all those things, for sure.
Fascinating stuff. So we've gone from live animals to human remains to pigeons. Let's look at some even more bizarre smuggling attempts. Giant lobsters, chainsaws. There was even a case with an improvised TNT device.
It's unbelievable the range of items people try to bring through. It speaks to a certain level of audacity, I think.
Audacity for sure. Maybe even a disconnect from the potential consequences.
That's possible. It's a constant game of cat and mouse between security and those determined to break the rules.
It sounds like we've got a lot more to unpack here. I'm already hooked on these stories. What other crazy things are in store for us?
What about the passenger who decided to pack firecrackers?
Firecrackers? Seriously?
It's a reminder that even things we think of as celebratory or harmless, they can be seen as a security threat in a different context, especially when you think about all those strict rules about flammable materials on planes. Better safe than sorry, right?
We've explored the motives, the methods, and the consequences of smuggling. But let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
What does all this tell us about the world we live in?
It reflects globalization, the interconnectedness of our world,
Right.
and the challenges that come with it.
Yeah.
The ease of international travel has brought countless benefits,
Yeah.
but it's also created opportunities for illicit activities like drug trafficking and wildlife smuggling.
It's a reminder that increased connectivity comes with increased complexity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One passenger thought it was a good idea to bring a meat slicer, a tenderizer, and a set of cutting knives in their checked luggage.
Oh, wow. I can only imagine the look on the security agent's face when that popped up on the X-ray.
Right. What were they thinking?
It's a good reminder that context is everything when it comes to airport security. What's okay in one situation could be a big no-no in another. And those security folks, they have to make those judgment calls quickly.
Fast thinking, for sure. And then there was the passenger who tried to travel with not one, but 2 propane tanks.
Two.
What were they planning? A barbecue at 30,000 feet.
It's hard to say what their intentions were, but it definitely highlights the whole issue of hazardous materials. Definitely not something you want on an airplane.
Makes sense. But speaking of surprises, what about the passenger who tried to smuggle an 8-year-old boy in their luggage?
Wait, what? Seriously?
Not a game of hide and seek. This was a real attempt to transport a minor without the right papers. It's a really troubling incident on so many levels.
I can imagine. It brings up issues of child safety, human trafficking, the exploitation of vulnerable people. It's a whole different side of airport security.
It is.
And it's not just children. There was that case where someone tried to sneak a dog onto the plane in their carry-on. No documentation or anything.
That's right. Even our furry friends have to follow the rules when it comes to flying. Those airline regulations about animals, they're there for a reason, to protect both the animals and the other passengers. The right paperwork is essential for a smooth and safe journey for everyone.
So no sneaking Fido onto the plane in your purse, no matter how cute he is.
Exactly. And speaking of smooth and safe journeys, one passenger's attempt to bring a Mickey Mouse stuffed animal through security took a dark turn.
What happened?
The cuddly toy was concealing a weapon.
Are you serious?
Threats can pop up in the most unexpected places.
Even beloved childhood characters. It's like a game of chess, isn't it?
It really is security trying to anticipate every move, trying to counter the ever-evolving tactics of the smugglers. And it's not always weapons they're trying to hide. Remember that case with the cat in the checked luggage?
A poor thing.
It raises ethical questions about animal welfare, especially when it comes to travel. We need to remember that animals have needs and sensitivities. Their well-being should be a top priority when we're making travel plans.
Right. Smuggling them in cramped and unsafe conditions is never okay.
Never. One cat might be manageable, but what about the passenger who tried to smuggle almost 3 bins full of turtles through security?
3 bins of turtles.
The illegal wildlife trade is a huge problem. It has far-reaching consequences. Turtles and so many other species are targeted for the exotic pet trade or even for use in traditional medicine. Airport security is a key part of stopping those illegal shipments and protecting those endangered animals.
It's so much bigger than just one person trying to get something past security. We're talking about entire ecosystems and species being threatened.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible how creative some of these smugglers are.
It is. Think about the passenger caught trying to sneak eels through security at an airport in Malaga.
Eels.
Eels. It just goes to show you the lengths people will go to exploit and profit from the demand for exotic species. And if you thought eels were strange, another passenger decided to try their luck with giant African snails.
Hold on, giant African snails?
Yep, nearly 70 of them. They were found in checked baggage at LAX.
Wow. What were they planning to do with those?
It's a strange case, but it highlights how invasive species can be brought in through smuggling. Those giant African snails, they can be a real threat to local ecosystems and agriculture if they get established somewhere new.
So it's not just about protecting endangered species. It's about preventing those ecological disruptions that could have long-term consequences. Speaking of things that are definitely not allowed on planes, there was that passenger who tried to bring a gun belt buckle through security.
That's a classic example of the challenges security faces when it comes to identifying concealed threats. And speaking of creative concealment, remember that case where someone tried to hide a knife in an enchilada?
A knife in an enchilada. Seriously.
It might seem funny, but it highlights the importance of double-checking your belongings before packing. You never know what might be tucked away in a seemingly innocent container.
That's good advice. Do your research before you pack. And always be mindful of the rules. Those rules are there to keep everyone safe.
Couldn't agree more. And for any aspiring ninjas out there, take note. Ninja climbing claws are also a no-go in carry-on luggage.
Ninja climbing claws. Really?
It's a good example of how something might seem harmless in one context, but could be perceived as a threat in another. While climbing claws might not seem like a big deal, they are still sharp objects that could potentially be used to cause harm.
Makes sense. And speaking of pushing the limits, what about that passenger who tried to bring a flogger that's a multi-bladed whip through security.
That one definitely raised some eyebrows. It highlights the variety of items that people try to bring through, sometimes with little regard for how it might make other passengers feel. It's a tough job for security personnel. They have to enforce the rules while also being respectful of individual rights and cultural sensitivities. It's a delicate balance. And sometimes those items can be a bit more, shall we say, explosive. Literally. There was that passenger who tried to bring a grenade hitch through security. Even though it was a replica, I'm guessing it didn't go over well.
Not at all. It's always better to err on the side of caution.
Especially when it comes to anything that looks like a weapon or an explosive device. But unfortunately, some people are determined to push the boundaries, like the passenger who tried to bring a 3D printed gun loaded with live ammunition through security.
That's a scary thought. I'm curious, given the ingenuity and adaptability of smugglers,
Yeah.
what do you think the future holds for airport security? What new challenges might they face?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
As technology advances, so too will the methods of smugglers.
Right.
We might see an increase in the use of 3D printing to create undetectable weapons or containers.
Wow.
Biosmuggling, that's a scary one where they hide dangerous things like toxins or pathogens.
Yeah.
And as AI gets better, or drones, they could try to use those to bypass security measures.
AI smuggling rings and drones delivering like illegal stuff. Sounds like a sci-fi movie.
And speaking of things that pack a punch, ladies, listen up. Lipstick stun guns are also a no-no in carry-on luggage.
Lipstick stun guns.
Wow. This is a reminder that even everyday objects can be modified to conceal dangerous things. Airport security has to be on the lookout for these cleverly disguised weapons. And passengers need to be aware of what's allowed and what's not.
It's always good to double-check your bags before you head to the airport. But it's not all doom and gloom. We've also had stories of passengers trying to bring some unusual but ultimately harmless items through security, like that giant lobster we talked about.
Oh yeah, the lobster. That case shows how subjective it can be when it comes to deciding what's prohibited. A giant lobster might raise eyebrows and get a few laughs, but it's not a security threat.
Right. Sometimes common sense and discretion are key for both passengers and security.
Exactly.
So maybe leave the giant crustaceans at home. But what about that passenger who tried to bring their emotional support peacock on the plane?
The peacock, unfortunately, didn't meet the airline's requirements for emotional support animals. This highlights the increasing popularity of emotional support animals and the challenges airlines face in balancing passenger needs with the safety and well-being of everyone on board.
It's a tricky situation. There are definitely people who benefit from emotional support animals, but there are also concerns about potential abuse. We need clear guidelines to make sure the system isn't exploited.
I agree.
It's important to remember those rules are there for a reason. Okay, let's enter a deep dive with one last story that captures the bizarre world of airport security. The passenger who tried to bring a bottle of liquor filled with dead seahorses through security.
It might seem strange, but it highlights how even souvenirs and harmless-looking items can be used to conceal prohibited things. Airport security has to pay attention to every little detail.
Smugglers are always finding creative ways to disguise their contraband. Well, that was quite a journey through the world of airport security. We've seen it all, from the dangerous to the just plain strange. So next time you're packing for a trip, remember these stories. Double check your bags, leave the prohibited items at home, and maybe think twice about that unique souvenir. What would you never try to sneak through security? Let us know, because we've only just scratched the surface of this fascinating topic.
And if you're ever tempted to test the limits, remember this. The consequences are probably going to be way more inconvenient than just having your things taken away. Safe travels, everyone, and may your journeys be full of excitement, but not the kind that gets you in trouble at security.
That wraps up our deep dive into the world of airport security. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration. Until then, stay curious.